Now, I know that many of us want and need Christmas with our families. We feel after this year we deserve it.
Up to 3 households will be able to mix indoors between the 23rd and the 27th of December. It follows government talks tonight.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. But you are right. It is important that we don't let things go too loose over Christmas.
Well, good morning and welcome to a series called Christmas Unlocked. The last month has been filled with speculation as to whether Christmas will be locked down this year. Some people even suggest being cancelled. I mean, politicians and scientists have been giving us daily updates while social media has been going just crazy. Everyone guessing, everyone with an opinion on Christmas. Will it be normal this Christmas? Will we be able to meet and eat and shop and party? Well, who knows? We still don't really know the answer with 4 weeks to go. But one thing we do know, you can't lock down Christmas. You can't lock down the peace and the joy and the hope that Christmas represents. And there's one verse in the Bible that proves that. It was written 700 years before that first Christmas day. And it foretold what would happen in that stable in Bethlehem in the Middle East 2,000 years ago. And for the next few weeks, we're going to be unlocking Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. And as we unlock this verse, I think we'll also unlock the potential that Christmas contains. So here we go. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 says this, just one verse. For unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. And the government will be upon his shoulder. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Just want to give you some background to that one verse. 700 years before Christ, the nation of Israel was in total despair. Assyria, the superpower of the day, was bearing down from the north. Israel was already divided amongst itself and fighting Judah versus Israel. And both kingdoms were looking for allies in the battles. Anyone to help them, anyone to be on their side. Northern Israel itself was divided. The south didn't want to fight. 60 years later, King Sargon crushes northern Israel and he was ruthless, a real psychopath. I mean, get this, if you read the Bible, it tells us that one day he put fish hooks in people's lips and dragged them across the desert and tortured them to death. That's what this guy did with his enemies. It's rated 18 if you want to read it, but it's there in the Bible. And in the middle of all of this, King Uzziah reigned, and he was a good king. He was a godly man, well, for most of his reign anyway. And they relied on him for direction and keeping the peace and for providing. And during those days, there was immense prosperity. But then it happened. King Uzziah fell. He disobeyed God and he died. And for many, that was the last straw. Most people during that season were asking, okay, what on earth do we do now? We thought it was all going well. We thought it was going good. And then King Uzziah died. And they were in despair. And life had become a constant daily battle under continual pressure and fear of destruction. It seemed like they were in darkness, some people said at the time. Because of their own sin and because of their own stupidity, really, it seemed like the God of Israel had left the building. That they couldn't seem to see God anymore. They couldn't seem to find him. And because of that, they were trying other things to fill the void that God had left. Desperately seeking other people, other relationships, anyone at all, anyone, anywhere to help. And that's why God sent Isaiah to help recover their relationship with God, to open their eyes. And he started his ministry just as things got real bad. Remember that we heard it the other day by Chris Bowater. Isaiah chapter 6 starts with these words, in the year King Uzziah died. And that's where Isaiah starts his ministry and his work. And note this, that the theme of Isaiah is found in Isaiah's own name. His name means salvation is from the Lord, meaning help is only from God, no one else. In the middle of all of this, God's greatest plan in history of the universe is revealed through Isaiah. And are you ready? Here's the answer. The people were in distress. They were down. They were facing torture by death. They didn't know what was around the corner. They didn't know what was going to happen next year. And here is the revelation that came through Isaiah. Are you ready? Unto us a child is born. I mean, yeah, you're probably thinking the same thing as the people thought in that day. What? We're facing a superpower of psychopathic murderers? Imagine coming up against that. What would you prefer? I'd prefer, I'd prefer a bigger army, even a better machine gun, or even a tank. Give me anything. But no, in the middle of their darkest moment, in the middle of their deepest depression, God says, for unto you a child. But not any child. A child with a heritage and a birthright. A son, a God-man, a supernatural child for them. But sadly, the people 700 years before Jesus, they just didn't get this. They just didn't understand it. It wasn't like a big, yeah, fantastic. They just didn't get it. And I wonder whether somebody watching this today reads those words and still today just doesn't get it. Maybe, friend, maybe this list describes your life. In despair, life has become a constant battle, under continual pressure and fear of destruction, even from COVID-19, even from the lockdown, either from the disease or from the effects of the disease that we're going to face next year. Unemployment, insecurity, our bank accounts going down instead of the other way, feeling like you're in darkness, like in a dead end. Seems like God has left the building. Well, if you're feeling like that today, and you're feeling like God has left the building and he's left this crazy world, and you're like those people trying other things to fill the void that God has left, well, I want to encourage you today. Here is the answer again. I'm going to read that line again. Unto you and to me, today, a child is born. The child is born for you. A son is given for you. And this is what he'll be like. And here's the great news I just want to share briefly this morning. Here's the great news. This is our only hope, friend. Thank God for, even this week, a vaccine. Thank God for the NHS. Thank God for the scientists in our nation. Thank God for all of that. But friend, that's not where my hope is today. For you and me, a child is born. For you, a son today is given. That's the good news. That's the hope of Christmas. At the end of the Second World War, there was a concentration camp. And each day the guards looked upon these guys and they saw the hopelessness in their eyes and just the futility of life. And one morning the guards noticed a difference. There was whistling, there was smiling, people were happy and talking to each other. Now, you need to know, nothing had changed their circumstances. Nothing. Everything was still the same. But the secret was this. That night, someone had smuggled a small transistor radio into the camp. And they heard the news, tuning into that radio, that the Allied forces had landed at Normandy. DDay, Deliverance Day, had started. And it was now just a matter of time until they were freed. Their circumstances hadn't changed. Their situation was exactly the same. In fact, it would be almost a year until they were fully liberated. But listen, the help was on the way. They were not forgotten. For the first time, they realized there is hope. They were not alone. I've got some great news. 2,000 years ago, in the Middle East, in a small, insignificant town called Bethlehem, there was a landing. God himself came to earth. The Lord of the universe, of the galaxies, of the moon and the stars, came to our rescue. It was D-Day. It was Deliverance Day. That's why we celebrate Christmas. That's why we put up a tree. That's why we give gifts and get excited at Christmas time. Now, maybe your Christmas this year might not be perfect. Maybe your New Year is not looking all that good. Maybe you're facing some massive challenges. But listen, Christmas is a reminder that help is on the way. We're not forgotten. We're not alone. Help is on the way. Why? Because for you and for me, a child is born. And his name will be called... No, just pause there. This is really important. And you know, it's important if a child has been given for us, if this is a gift, what is the gift like? How does it help me in my situation? What will he be like? How will he help me? Well, over the next 4 weeks, we're going to unlock this verse and look at the 4 things that it means to know that a child is born for us. I'm just going to go over those briefly this morning. But in the next 4 weeks, we're going to be looking that he is our, number one, wonderful counselor. When you simply don't know what to do, he is our wonderful counselor. Have you ever been in a situation where you simply can't work out which way to go? You can't figure out a way. You can't pay your way out. You can't find an answer. You can't find a map to lead you out of the situation that you're in. You just don't know what to do. And there seems to be no possible answer. Have you noticed it gets worse the longer that you can't find a solution? As day goes into day and you just need an answer. Listen, if that's you today, Jesus comes to you today as your very own personal counselor. Isn't that great news? Wonderful counselor. Secondly, mighty God. When you just can't fix the problem, he comes to you as your mighty God. In fact, those of you who know your Hebrew, that's what the Old Testament was written in, the word there is El Gibor. El Gibor, El that comes from El Shaddai or Elohim. You might know those 2 words, which means mighty, and Gibor meaning mighty one. So listen, the literal translation is he's the wonderful counselor and he's the mighty, mighty one. The mighty, mighty one. Why is there an emphasis on mighty, mighty? Well, don't forget what I just told you. Isaiah was speaking to people so much like you and me. They were believers, they sang the songs and read their Bibles, but as soon as they got into a bad place, a difficult place, they started playing God themselves. Yeah, we can work it out. We can pay our way out of this. We can scheme and we can organize and we can plan to get ourselves out of this situation. And God was screaming at those people in Isaiah's day to ask them this question. Why are you playing God when you can have me, the real God? I'm here for you. I'm here for you, and I am mighty. I used to sing a song in Sunday school. My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. It's only sometimes when we grow up do we forget that God is a mighty, mighty God. So he's our wonderful counselor. He's the mighty, mighty God. He can do anything, anytime, anywhere for you watching this live stream today. And then thirdly, everlasting Father. Everlasting Father. Oh, I love this part of the gift. When you feel all alone. You know, it's difficult enough when you get into a place of you don't know what to do and you just can't fix it, your problems. But it's even worse when you get into that situation and you feel like you're alone in it. And here's the weird thing with this description. It directly relates to where God's people were in 700 BC. The term father in Israel was often associated with the king. He was known as the father of the nation. And they were grieving. They were in loss and in pain because they'd lost their father. The king was supposed to provide for them and protect them. And now he'd been taken away. And you know, when you've been let down and You know, when you feel like there's no one there for you, he's not just a father. It's very descriptive that he's the everlasting father. When other people leave you and forsake you and let you down, he's the one who'll stay in your corner. He'll stay there for you because he's not just the father. He's not the father who left you and abandoned you. He's the father, the everlasting father, who'll stick with you through thick and thin. And then the last one, Prince of Peace, Prince of Peace. You know, life doesn't always leave a lot of room for peace. Have you noticed that? Especially in 2020, life can be at times a combination of pandemonium, of confusion, of bedlam, anarchy, and complete turmoil. I mean, look at our nation in the last 12 months. Look at the world in the last 12 months. But it says here that he is the Prince of Peace. And if you're lacking peace today, if you just need an injection of peace into your life, then he's the one for you. There's three kinds of peace that the Father wants to bring you today. Peace with God, peace with others, peace with people around you. Maybe you're looking at Christmas Day and thinking, oh no, we're going to be around the Christmas table and there's not a lot of peace in our family. God can bring peace right into the middle of your family situation and your relationships. Peace with God, peace with others, and finally, peace with yourself. And that's so important. Many people in our nation today are not at peace with themselves. The peace that helps you sleep at night, the peace that helps you rest and recover and be refreshed. Jesus is the gift at Christmas, and he is the Prince of Peace, and he gives the kind of peace that is, well, it's internal and it's unshakable. It's not dependent on present circumstances. It's not dependent on vaccine or no vaccine, on COVID or no COVID. You know, when Jesus arrived from planet Earth, when he arrived on that DDay, the first thing he pronounced when he could speak, the first thing we hear him pronouncing is peace is here. Peace has arrived. So hey, join us in the run-up to Christmas this year. Unlock the power and reality of what Christmas can mean for you. Not just for this season, but for the whole of 2021, for the whole of the new year ahead. And listen, if you've never met the real Christ of Christmas, if you've never experienced his counsel when you're confused, his mighty hand to help you when you're in need, his presence when you're lonely, or his peace when you're in turmoil, then I just want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you to get in touch with us. Get in touch with Life Church on our website. No question is out of bounds. Ask us anything. Ask us about what I've been talking about today. I don't often say this, but get in touch with me personally. My email address is pb@paulbriers.com. pb@paulbriers.com. Get in touch. Ask the questions. In the meantime, enjoy this Christmas season and tune in next time as we unlock Christmas together.